43 episodes ago, we began at the dawn of creation. Be name Khodavand jan o khirad. These words, translated as, in the name of God Almighty, creator of the soul and of wisdom, ignite the Shahnameh. From there, Persian poet Abul Qasim Ferdowsi continues with a divine invocation to God, the Prophet Muhammad, Imam Ali, and Sultan Mahmud of Ghazna, the ruler during the time Ferdowsi wrote much of the epic in the late 900s. The first moments of the Shahnameh are in the court of Kayumars, the first king and indeed the first human of the world. All is in peace and harmony, people and creatures of the natural world. But unbeknownst to King Kayumars, the evil force of Ahriman the devil is quietly plotting an attack. When Kayumars' son, Shahnameh, is brutally mauled to death by Ahriman's son, the Black Div, the world plunges into chaos and mourning for a year, until Shahnameh's son, Hushang, leads an army of all the good creatures, kills the Black Div, and casts away Ahriman's evil army. Hushang inherits the throne from his grandfather Kayumars and builds civilization, including the discovery of fire, which was the first Feast of Sadeh, still celebrated today. Hushang passes the throne down to his son, Tahmures, who advances civilization further using magical powers. Ahriman then wages another attack on the good world, this time sending his full army of Divs to terrorize the kingdom. But Tahmures successfully defeats the army of Divs and even humiliates Ahriman the devil by riding him like a horse. So Ahriman disappears back into the shadows, the Div army become Tahmures' palace servants, and Tahmures eventually passes the throne down to his son Jamshid. Jamshid's reign sees the world advance to its most prosperous and mightiest state yet. In fact, God is so pleased with Jamshid that one day he makes Jamshid's throne soar high up to the sky for all the world to behold the great and good king. This moment is what Ferdowsi attributes as being the first ever Nowruz. But Jamshid takes his glory for granted and begins to think himself above God. As punishment for his greed and arrogance, God removes Jamshid's far, or divine right, which loses Jamshid his legitimacy in the eyes of the kingdom. Jamshid's error would end up costing him and his people everything they hold dear, because Ahriman the devil uses this moment of weakness to create a monster that would plunge the world into 1,000 years of darkness. He possesses the mind of a young Arab prince and turns him into Zahok the Serpent King, a ruthless, murderous tyrant with 2 snakes growing out of his shoulders, which have to be fed by the brains of 2 young men every night for 1,000 years. Jamshid meets a gruesome end, too. He tries to hide from Zahok's army, but eventually gets found and sawn in half. During the reign of Zahok the Serpent King, the world becomes a cruel, vicious, and hopeless place. But amidst the terror, one glimmer of hope emerges. Zahok wakes up from a terrible nightmare that predicts that he will be overthrown and killed by a blessed child named Fereydun. From that moment, Zahok dedicates everything to finding young Fereydun and killing him. In a remote village, baby Fereydun is born, and his mother, Faranak, discovers right away that Zahok is out to kill him. So she desperately travels wherever she can find a safe haven for him. First, Fereydun is placed in the care of a farmer, where he is fed on the milk of the sacred and beautiful cow, Bar Maye. But when Zahok finds out about this location, Faranak takes Fereydun away just before Zahok kills everyone on the farm, including Bar Maye. Faranak brings Fereydun up to a mountainside and trusts an old pious man to keep Fereydun safe. There, Fereydun waits until a sign that it is time to fulfill his destiny. The pivotal moment comes when Zahok is visited by Kaveh the blacksmith, a common man who begs the Serpent King for justice and mercy to spare the life of his youngest son, after all his other sons had been fed to Zahok's snakes. But when Zahok tries to coerce Kaveh into signing a contract of loyalty, Kaveh takes a brave stand against tyranny and tears up the contract in front of Zahok. Kaveh then takes his message of freedom to the streets, where he rips off his blacksmith apron and hoists it up onto a spear as a banner and a call to seek out Feridun. Led by Kaveh, the people hike up to the mountainside where Feridun had been waiting and call upon him to topple Zahok and restore good to the land. Feridun leads them in painting Kaveh's apron red, purple, and gold to create the first flag of the rebellion, and then marches them into battle against Zahok's army. As the battle rages, Feridun penetrates Zahok's palace, where he meets Jamshid's sisters, who had been tortured by Zahok all this time. After healing their minds and trauma, Feridun learns of all the horrifying things Zahok has done in these 1,000 years. Then, Zahok drops down into the throne room from the ceiling, ready to kill Feridun. But in one quick, decisive blow, Feridun strikes Zahok on the head with his ox-headed mace. Feridun then drags Zahok in chains up to the top of Mount Damalvand and nails him to a cliffside. Finally, Zahok withers away and dies, and Feridun becomes king. In Feridun's older age, his 3 sons, Salm, Tur, and Iraj, become embroiled in a terrible rivalry. Feridun had divided the world among the 3 brothers. He gave Salm, the eldest, all the lands west of Iran, Tur, the second, all the lands east of Iran, and the youngest, Iraj, the kingdom of Iran itself. This bitter jealousy from Salm and Tur culminates in fratricide, where Tur beheads his peaceful younger brother Iraj. In his desperate mourning for his youngest son Iraj, Feridun implores God to grant him one more descendant to avenge Iraj's murder. That blessing comes with the birth of Manucher, Feridun's great-grandson, who grows up to kill Salm and Tur himself in battle. Feridun reaches old age and finally dies, leaving the throne to Manucher. Manucher becomes a pivotal ruler, bridging the Shahnameh's transition from the Mythical Age into the Heroic Age, and his first decree is to rededicate himself and the kingdom to Feridun's path of righteousness and cast away any traces of Zahok or Ahriman. This leads directly into the tale of Sam, the pious and fiercely loyal general of Feridun's army, who gets tested by God with the shocking discovery that his son Zal is born with white hair. Believing the child to be cursed, he leaves him on a mountainside to die. But baby Zal is rescued by the mighty and majestic Simor, the bird of benevolence, who carries him to her nest and raises him as her own. And with Zal's story, a new chapter of the epic begins. That concludes our recap of the Mythical Age of the Shahnameh, which is most of Season 1 of this podcast. We will soon pick up where we left off in the epic, with the rise of King Nozar, Manucher's son, who has a bad start to his reign. If you enjoyed this episode, feel free to share it or leave a review. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for more Shahnameh quests.